This is the You Can Learn Chinese podcast. For everyone who's trying to learn Chinese or reaching for the next level, you came to the right place. I am your host, Jared Turner, and most people are shocked when they find out how incompetent I am as an electrician. My co-host is John Pasden, and when he has a headache, he takes 2 aspirin and keeps away from children, just as it says on the bottle. Let's get to it. Hey guys, this is Jared Turner.
Hey everybody, my name is John Pasden. I am in Shanghai, China.
We have a great interview for this episode with Matt William Knowles. He speaks Chinese, of course, and he's been an actor in many Chinese TV shows, movies, and even theater.
You know, Jared, it's kind of weird. If you're a foreigner in China, you get a lot of opportunities to be on TV, sometimes even in movies. But most of those people don't have real talent. I think that we'll find Matt is a little different.
You know, I've done a lot of interviews, but Matt's story is one of a kind. You've got to hear it for yourself.
All right, let's get into it. This is going to be interesting.
My name is Matt William Knowles, and I'm an actor, and I speak Mandarin.
All right, Matt, why did you start learning Chinese?
Well, I played football in college at a school called Clemson.
For our international listeners, that'd be American football, I presume?
Yeah, I played American football in South Carolina. It's a big football school called Clemson. Had my dream set to go to the NFL. And then my senior year, my knees got injured. And 3 surgeries later, I found myself on my mom's couch watching reruns of Matlock, graduated, and football was off the table and didn't know what to do with my life.
Wow. That must have been a big blow.
Yeah. Your life gets flipped upside down. You don't really know what's going to happen. And it was at that time that I decided I'd like to go somewhere in the world, give back like a year of my life and go help people somehow. Any way I could possibly help people, just give back, figure out my life.
Mm-hmm.
And word got around, and I got a call one day from a old friend who was also an American football player. His name was Zach. And he said, "Hey, Matt, I'm in backwoods China, in one of the poorest areas in China, and I'm volunteering teaching English at this school. And I've been out here a year, and I'm about to go crazy being out here all alone. And my parents said you're looking to go somewhere and help people. They want another teacher at this school. They can't afford to pay anything. No one wants to come out here, but I'd love to have a guy like you out here with me." And so I said, "Sure, let's do it." And knowing nothing about China, I'm pretty sure I thought China and North Korea were about the same kind of space back then. And so I sold my car, raised some money from friends and family, and flew out to China, straight into Guizhou Province.
Wow. And I know Guizhou is one of the poorest provinces in China.
Yeah. At the time, it was the poorest province. I'm not sure how it stacks up now. But I guess our claim to poor fame was that in the entire province, there wasn't a McDonald's or a KFC.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which I guess if you've been to China, you know, they're everywhere. So,
yeah.
And then we were in a really small city, about 3 hours drive from the capital of Guiyang, a place called Duyun. So I got there and I couldn't speak a word of Chinese. And I was an English teacher for minority students. Most of my students were minorities from the villages around that little city. And they were Miaozu, Miao people, Shui, and Bui. And yeah, so quickly, within a couple of weeks, I think, I realized, if I want to be able to communicate with anyone here, I need to learn some Chinese. Because, most of the kids in my class can't even speak any English. No one in town can. The school provided me a one-on-one tutor every day. And so I took advantage of that and I started studying. And the place we were, there was really nothing else to do other than to teach a few classes of English. And then I'd be studying with my teacher. And then when I wasn't with her, I'd be studying flashcards. And then we'd walk around town making friends and just, sitting in random shops and
Wow.
talking to shop owners.
Practicing your Chinese, right?
Yeah, it wasn't so much practicing. I never looked at it like practicing. I was just trying to make friends. I was just lonely, and I just wanted to hang out. And then the more you learn, the more it's useful, the more you can
hmm
understand what they're saying to you and the more you can communicate back.
Well, Matt, I'm curious about this experience of yours because I know what it's like. Many people coming to China. I mean, you could go to a big first-tier city like Shanghai, Beijing, and you got all your creature comforts, if you will, but it can still be a difficult transition. What was that like for you, going to this town far away from the big city and living a very, I guess, very different life than what you're used to?
Well, honestly, it wasn't that bad. For me, it was an adventure. And I didn't know what to expect, really. But I think it was better than what I was expecting. I remember flying in. I flew from the US, from South Carolina the first time, flew to Hong Kong and overnighted there, stayed in this like tiny little hotel room. And I woke up after like 4 hours to get the bus to the airport. And I looked out the window and there were just like rows and rows and rows of buildings, just like skyscrapers as far as I could see. And I got scared. I was like, what am I doing? Where is this? Like, what am I doing with my life? And then I flew into Guiyang from there, and my friend picked me up. We started driving back to Duyun from there in Guizhou. And we just started passing by these rice paddies and these huge, huge mountains and valleys. And it's just amazing, amazing scenery there. It's absolutely gorgeous. And my heart just kind of like just relaxed. I was like, oh, I'm home.
Mm.
And yeah, for me, it was almost instantly just my home.
Wow.
I don't know. I think I was just open to learning and exploring the world and experiencing new things. And coming from South Carolina, China has got to be the most different place possible. And so I was just soaking it in. I didn't know how Beijing or Shanghai were, or even Hong Kong,
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have scared me off if I had gone to those places first. Interestingly, the first time, I think after I was in China about a year, I went to Beijing. There about 2 weeks. And I remember having culture shock in Beijing.
Really? How so?
Yeah, because I went to a restaurant and the waitress was trying to speak to me in English. And I was like, what is going on? Like, how can someone in China speak English? Like, where am I? I think, I looked around and I realized like, oh, I'm different than people here. I'm white.
Really?
And it just like hit me. I was like, I don't know. It was this weird experience I've had several times where I just all of a sudden realized, oh, I'm different.
Really?
I really just China became my second home.
Wow, that's really neat. Well, tell me a little bit about what it was like living then in that town. Like, how many people were in that town?
I think, yeah, we call it a town. For China, it's a small city or small town. But I think there are about 200,000 or 300,000 people there.
Okay.
And I taught at the #1 high school for most of my classes. So it was like the best high school in the area. Mm-hmm. But most of my students came from the surrounding villages. And a lot of them were the first student ever to be able to study high school from their village.
Wow.
So I have lots of cool stories where they would invite me to come to their village for the weekend. And I'd go there and the village elder would kill a chicken. We'd sit around, squat around on the ground and eat this chicken hot pot.
Wow.
Wander around the village and little kids would run away screaming, thought it was a monster. And yeah, but the city, Duyun, was just, I think they called it a 3rd-tier city at the time. Now they have like 4th and 5th tier designations for cities. I don't think they had that back then. I think it was just 1, 2, or 3. And we were definitely a hard 3. Most people have no idea where it is. Most Chinese people don't even know where Guizhou is, the whole province, much less this little city. And it's just a quaint little city in the mountains. I'm not sure what the elevation is, but you're basically kind of living in the clouds.
Wow.
Every day I'd wake up and my blanket on my bed would be wet from the condensation.
Wow.
And it rained probably every other day. Kind of dreary, kind of usually. But when the sun came out, or if you get out of the city and you see the scenery, it was just amazing. the city was flanked by two mountains. There was a South Mountain and North Mountain. And it's just a city that runs along a river right between them. And we stayed, Yizhong, the number one middle school or high school, was on, I think, the South Mountain. And we were like right there next to the mountain. So every day I would wake up before the sun came up, you'd hear some sort of roosters crowing. Or what do roosters make? I don't even know. Cock-a-doodle-doo.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah. And then I would hear people screaming who would climb up to the top of the mountain every morning and just yell. So there'd always be like echoes of people, like, not like frightening screaming, but like people, you know.
What was this? Is this like those guys exercising in the morning, hitting themselves, or what is this?
I think so. I don't know if it was like some sort of Buddhist thing or something, but there were always, every morning, people on the top of that mountain yelling off into the city.
Wow.
And then the sounds of the school would start, which were the exercises, the exercise music that would play up in the morning, and all the kids would be out there doing their exercises to this music that plays, and they'd count like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 2 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 you know. And then the bell would ring, and I'd be like, "Oh crap, I'm late for class."
Time to go.
Oh wait, what am I going to teach today? Well, it doesn't really matter anyway. They can't understand anything I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, what was that like then, teaching? Because it sounds like that was perhaps challenging. Maybe that's the word. I don't know.
It was challenging. You know, I'm not a teacher, so they hired me because they couldn't get anyone else, and I spoke English. And I was like, I'm not a teacher, but they're like, no, we still need you. So I didn't have any training or anything, but I would just go. I just tried to make friends with my students and get them to talk and teach them as much as I could. I remember, I think one of my first classes, I wrote on the board, like, my favorite color is blank. And then I wrote like, A, 1, blue, 2, green, pink, red, whatever. And then I said, okay, now we're going to talk about our favorite color. And I'll give you an example. My favorite color is blue. What's your favorite color? And then one by one, like, what's your favorite color, girl in the blue tracksuit that you wear every single day? My favorite color is blue. Like, okay, that makes sense. What's your favorite color, Michael Jackson? Because they all chose like the most random names possible. My favorite color is blue. Okay. What's your favorite color, girl with the shirt that says orgy on it, which is true story. And she wore it every day. My favorite color is blue.
Seeing a pattern here.
Blue, blue, blue. And I'm like, no. You have to come up with your own favorite color. You can't just copy my favorite color. I want to know what your favorite color is. So it was a lot of, of course, the language barrier, but also a cultural barrier. And, they're not used to being creative and thinking for themselves. They're used to just memorizing things. And so even asking them something as simple as your favorite color, they couldn't even comprehend. It was fascinating.
Wow. So how long were you here in this town?
I stayed in Duyun for 2 years.
Oh, so you signed on for a second year then?
Yeah. So that's part of the China thing we were talking about. They suck you in. Yeah, I originally went for a year commitment. And then over halfway through the year, my buddy Zach left. He left early, gave me all his classes.
Thanks,
and
Zach.
He said, I was like, thanks, Zach. He was like, trust me, leave after this year. Do not let them convince you to come back a second year, no matter what.
Was that his second year then?
Yeah, that was his second year.
Got it.
So he convinced me to come for his second year, and still he could take it. He said, do not stay a second year. Sure enough, they convinced me to stay a second year. And I came back, and that's when my life really changed, because that's when it went back. I had plans in the US. Before that, I was dating a girlfriend from college, planning to go to law school. I'd already gotten in, deferred for a year. And then I decided I'm going to stay in China.
So what prompted you to do that?
Well, I think one big thing was that I wanted to help people. That was the reason why I went there. And I'd grown up through my church going on mission trips and doing humanitarian projects around the world and that kind of stuff. And it'd always been a very short-term sort of thing. It's like a week or a couple weeks. In summer of college, I went for like 8 weeks to several countries in Africa and passed out clothing and humanitarian aid and stuff.
Wow.
So I'd done these things and I'd kind of built up this passion for that. And it had always been like the most memorable experiences of my year or my life, really. And so I had this in my head that someday I want to help. I want to come back and help people for like a year to 3 years or something, or do it for the rest of my life. I don't know. And then I found myself in Douyin, and I was thinking, I'm helping people. I'm doing kind of what I wanted to do, or I hope I'm helping them, but I'm trying. And the reason I was going to go back to law school was that I didn't know what to do with my life. And I thought, well, law school is a good option. You can figure it out later. And it looks good. And there was this organization called International Justice Mission that I thought it would be really cool to work for, where they use law to free people from slavery around the world, bust down the walls with SWAT teams and rescue people. And I realized, okay, well, I don't really want to be a lawyer. I just want to help people and do stuff for others. And I'm already doing that. So why am I going to leave to go on this crazy other journey to do what I'm already doing? They need me here. They want me to come back. Yeah. And my girlfriend broken up with me. So.
Oh, well, that too, right?
So, so I didn't have any ties anymore and I could stay for another year. So that's what I did.
So how was that second year then?
Second year was interesting. I think I almost went crazy.
How so?
You're just like outside of your own culture so much, own language. And then I couldn't figure out who I was anymore. And I felt like this place was my home. I really felt like this is my home. This is my city. And I remember I got on a bus to go to the school one morning, same bus I get on every day. And I get on the bus and everyone on the bus starts laughing. And like, why are you laughing at me? And this is my city. I live here. I'm Chinese, right? You know? And and it was at that point where I was like, okay, they don't accept me for being Chinese. And I think maybe it's because my Chinese language ability isn't good enough. Because where I'm from, South Carolina, I think if you have an American passport and you speak with a Southern accent, you're walking around there, then you're from South Carolina. I don't care what you look like.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, if I speak like them, if I really speak like them, really understand things, then they'll accept me. Then I'll be part of my home. I want to be a part of my home. And so the second year is really when I doubled down, and Zach had left and I didn't really have any close friend there. And I just doubled down learning Chinese because I think I was so lonely. And I made a friend, local Chinese friend, who entertained government officials who'd come into town. He worked for the government. He was kind of in charge of showing them a good time when they came into town. And so that would entail him every single night going to KTV, singing karaoke.
Yes.
And so we hit it off. And then every day he started inviting me to sing karaoke with government officials who were visiting and drink with them. And so I started going. At first, I thought it was the weirdest thing in the world to sing in a karaoke room. The first year, I refused to go. I'm not going to do that. That's weird. But the second year, started doing it with him. Then we started going every single day.
Wow.
And started learning Chinese songs. And then that's when it really got crazy because people, they would freak out that this white guy back with China was singing Chinese songs just like them. And it just kept learning Chinese and speaking Chinese. And I think already by the second year, I was dreaming in Chinese and my whole life was in Chinese.
Wow.
There was no opportunity to speak in English except when I would Skype with my family back home.
Really? Wow.
And I guess my classes, but that was...
Yeah, that's usually one-sided, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that is really interesting. So I'm curious now where this path took you because I see where you are now, but what changed here that kind of launched you to really sticking around China for longer term?
Well, it wasn't ever longer term. I don't think I ever had that in mind. It's turned into longer term if you look at the whole picture. But the real change happened after my second year in Douyin. I decided, okay, I got to get out of here because I'm going to go crazy. I end up marrying a local girl here and living in the backward mountains of China for the rest of my life. I'm like, that's not really what I, envisioned. But I thought, I feel like China, it's like the golden years of China. There's so much energy in China. People are making money and doing things. And
what year was this?
it's just 2011.
Got it.
I went in 2009. So I guess this is about 2011. And I thought, I want to study another year of Chinese and really solidify my Chinese ability because I feel like it's going to change my life somehow. And at the time, I thought, I'm going to do some business stuff, international trade or some sort of business, with Chinese. I can see myself doing that. And so I looked at going the two places that I kind of knew a couple people and were considering one was Beijing. There was an opportunity to teach English at Beida, Beijing University. And I thought that'd be cool because everyone in Guizhou is always talking about Beida because it's the best school in the world. And then the other one was Chengdu. And the draw there was that they had a rugby team. And I thought, wow, I could have, I could play some rugby and have some international friends. And then I felt like it was a good language environment because there wouldn't be a lot of distractions to speaking English. And so I ended up moving to Chengdu to study a year of Chinese and played rugby. And it was while I was there, after a few months, that I got discovered singing in Chinese.
Oh, really? How'd that happen?
Well, a friend that I had met recently, she was a host, famous host in the area. She invited me to sing karaoke one night. And I went, and one of the guys who was there was basically like the Ryan Seacrest of West China. He was like a big TV host. And another guy there was an agent for the most famous guy in Chengdu, a comedian named Li Boqing. And they were like, hey, you should sing something. Thinking I'm going to sing some English song or whatever. I picked my favorite Chinese song. I sang that. And then they just flipped out. They were like, we cannot believe, if we close our eyes, you sound like you're Chinese. And then we open them,
Wow.
this tall white guy, and the guy was like, you got to come on my TV show and do this. And I was like, what? No, I don't do that. I'm like a football player. I don't go on TV. I don't sing. But they convinced me to do it. And I did. And then the agent signed me to his agency.
Well, how did that go? I mean, what was that like? Maybe you could talk about that.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that, I'm trying to think, which I sang so many times during that time on TV. It was, just a Chinese variety show. And then the first time I did it, there were these girls who were like hosts, 4 girls. And then they're like, hey, you should sing a song. And I sang a song and they acted like it was so fun. And there were like bubbles and hearts floating around on the screen behind me in the video afterwards. It's pretty comical, really, when I look back on it. Even at the time, it was probably more funny for me then. This agent signed me to his agency as a singer and a model and host and actor, all-round talent.
You're like, are you an actor? Yes, I am.
Well, that's another story.
I am now.
That's another story. So my agents have started sending me out part-time to do these random gigs, hosting things and singing for, concerts and doing some modeling and, endorsing products and the pandas and all sorts of stuff. And then acting. And we have some time. So I'm going to tell you the other story that precedes this. I call this my Crazy Rich Asians story. Because when Crazy Rich Asians came out, I'd spent some time in Singapore for a summer. And I was like, this isn't Crazy Rich Asians. This is like medium rich Asians. This is like low key what Singapore really is. Because my experience in Singapore was it also was another life-changing experience, which we'll connect to this eventually. So the summer after my 2 years in Guizhou, I flew back to the US to visit my family. And then I was flying back to Chengdu to start studying Chinese. And I flew through Singapore on a connecting flight. And then I took a layover for a week.
Oh.
One of my college buddies was there working for Bank of America. And so I was sleeping on his floor, blow-up bed, and kind of exploring the city. And I took my bag with all my stuff to the beach one day in Sentosa Beach and jumped in the water, came back, and all my stuff was stolen.
Oh, no.
My
in
bag,
Singapore.
my identification, my phone, my flip-flops, my clothes, everything was stolen. And actually, if you know anything about Singapore, the craziest part of the story because nothing ever gets stolen in Singapore.
Yeah.
It's like the safest place in the world.
Yeah, seriously.
But my stuff got stolen.
Oh my
And so I was
goodness.
stuck at Sentosa Beach barefoot in a bathing suit and had to like hitchhike my way home. And then I got stuck in Singapore while my mom sent over a new phone and identification and some other stuff. And so my buddy was nice to let me keep staying with him for a while. But after another 2 weeks, I think he was like, "Do you think you could find somewhere else to stay? You know, he was like on my floor."
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So I did this thing called couch surfing, which is a website, right? I'd never done it before, made a profile. First person who messaged me was this gal named Ling. And she said, "Hey, I'm house sitting in this house. And I just kind of cook here during the day. And then I go home to my home and sleep at night. And you're welcome to come stay here." So I said, "Sure." So I went and showed up, and it was this huge house. Turned out it was like some ambassador's house, and they were home leave for 6 months. And so she was watching for them.
6 months.
Yeah, something like that. And then she said, "You can stay here, as long as you want, but you can only stay in the kids' room."
Mm-hmm.
And in the kids' room was this red race car bed. So I ended up staying there almost 3 months and sleeping every day on this red race car bed. But, I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'5", so my feet were like, legs were hanging off like 2 feet off the end. And, I'm this huge house sleeping on this red race car bed, but whatever. But it was a free place to stay. And so
in Singapore, which is not cheap.
No. And so then I'm like walking around the town, and I kind of meet some friends of friends there and start making a few friends. And so they would invite me to come, to dinner or to go out, have a drink at night. And it got to be where I was just like running. I had not made any money in a couple of years. And I'd just come out of college. I was super poor. And so I started running out of money. So I couldn't like take taxis anymore. Then the subway was too expensive for me. So I was like walking everywhere. And one of the guys I was hanging out with was this host and model in Singapore, really cool guy named Paul Foster. And, one day I think we were out one night, and he was like, "Oh, you're a handsome guy," something like that. And he was like, "You should do modeling." I was like, "Really?" He was like, yeah, you could do that. I was like, "I don't do modeling. I'm a football player." Couldn't possibly do that. But then I was like, "Can I make some money doing that?" And he was like, "Let me introduce you to my agent."
Nice.
So he introduced me to his agent, and they signed me, and I was a terrible model. I didn't book anything except for one job. I booked this campaign for HTC camera phones, and I did a flip off a pier, and then whatever. But then they said, "You look like a Viking." I hadn't shaved or cut my hair in 2 years when I was in Guizhou.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they were like, "There's this movie called Vikingdom. It's like a Hollywood Malaysian co-production film that's casting right now. And they need people that look like Vikings. You look like a Viking.
So you're a Viking." You're like, "Yes, I do.
You should audition for this film." And I was like, "Sure, I've never done a film. I don't even know. What does that mean? What is auditioning?" And then I went to Malaysia and did this audition. And then I got booked this role, this tiny role as a Viking warrior on this, Hollywood Malaysian co-production film.
Were you like kind of an extra, or were you actually like have a role per se?
I was what they call a preferred extra.
Oh, very good.
So they prefer you to the other extras. And then you get the opportunity to have some lines in a couple of scenes.
Because of your striking Viking features.
Yes. And so you're about as small of an actor as it could possibly be. You get a little, some lines in there.
Get to yell on set, or something.
Something like that. Go, no, don't stop. I don't know what it was. So anyway, I booked this role in this movie. Okay, back in Singapore, besides becoming a model there and an actor apparently, one day I met this gal who's like one of my best friends in the world now, named Corinne. And she was the owner of a bar that we went to. And she added my WhatsApp. The next day she messaged me. She was like, "It was so nice to meet you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I have a question. Would you like to come have tea with the president?" And I was like, "Oh, what, the president of what?" She was like, "Oh, the president of Singapore." It's like, sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never had tea with a president before. Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's do it. Yeah.
And so she had invited 2 people to go, myself and this other guy who had just moved to Singapore. And he was a guy named Ed Saverin,
Mm-hmm.
who was the co-founder of Facebook and had just moved to Singapore, took his fortune over there, and it's like, you know, one of the richest guys in Singapore. And so the next day, the three of us roll up to Istana, which is like the White House of Singapore, in Ed's pimped out car or whatever it was. And we get out, and President Nathan comes walking down the steps in front of Istana, and arms open wide, points right at me, and it's like, "So good to see you again." And I'm like, "Oh, sir, we've never met. I've never met you before." He's like, "No, I never forget a face. So good to see you." And he was obviously just being very nice because we hadn't met, but he ended up inviting us into his house, into the Istana, and we had tea with him and his family.
Wow.
And we took this picture together. And then he gifted us his tickets as we were leaving. He gifted us his tickets to the F1 race, the Formula One race that was happening the next week in Singapore.
Wow.
So the next week, we went to the Formula One race, sat in the presidential seats in the paddock club. There's like this glass box above the pit. You can like.
Is this point you're still sleeping in the race car bed?
Yeah, I'm still sleeping in the race car bed. I can't even afford the taxis to get anywhere. I think the subway was out of the question too. I was walking everywhere, you know. So it's like I'm hanging out with the richest people in Singapore, and I'm the poorest one in Singapore.
Yeah.
And so we had this amazing experience in the paddock club where you could like walk down and meet the drivers, and but we barely even watched the race because you could order any wine you wanted in the world and all this food and free massages and
Wow.
Haagen-Dazs, everything.
Wow.
And then I was friends with this group of people, with Ed and his friends, and I think they were in their party days. So, you know, every night, every other night, they were going out, and that song was popular. Champagne Showers was popular at the time, and they were literally just buying like Cristal bottles, you know, pouring them on the floor, and, you know, just crazy party time. And then here I am, like, my beard and looking like a backpacker and or a Viking, and partying with them, and you know, I'd never partied in my life, and it was this crazy experience. And then all of a sudden, I got my phone got through customs, I got my identification, and I was like, "This is amazing, but I need to go to China because I speak Mandarin, and for some reason, I need to keep on this journey."
Wow!
And so I tore myself away from Singapore and then moved to Chengdu. And life, you know, went back to normal, boring.
Yes.
Well, it's not that boring in China, but yeah. But from the richest part of Asia to, boom, Chengdu, which is another quaint city in Western China.
Wow.
Okay, fast forward again to when I got signed to this agency, and he signed me as an actor too. He was like, "Have you ever done any acting before?" And I was like, no. Oh, wait, I just did this Hollywood Malaysian co-production film. He was like, "Great.
I'm a Viking."
So all over town, he was like, "Hollywood actor, Matt William Knowles in town," you know? And then, boom, just my career just started taking off there. And,
that's hilarious.
And yeah, I kind of became like the white guy in Chengdu, just doing everything.
Yeah.
I hosted concerts and I'd sing in them. I hosted a concert for Fei Xiang.
Wow.
Big Chinese singer, and for like 40 or 50,000 people in a huge stadium. And then I'm like, "Welcome to the concert, and now your opening act, me." And I start singing. And I'm like, it's just these crazy experiences that I never ever thought I would experience.
What was your family and friends thinking about, or how did they react to some of these experiences you were having while you were in China? Or were they even aware?
Yeah, I think I would post some stuff on Facebook, and I think most people were just like, "What? What's going on?" My dad, for sure, there were a couple of years there where, some background, my dad's a pastor, a Presbyterian pastor. He's retired now. And so he's a pastor of this church, and he was, you know, always bragging to everyone that I went to China to help people, and I'm, you know, giving my life to help other people. And then all of a sudden, there's like pictures of me in my underwear on Facebook, like doing like a catwalk, and like, you know, wearing a Speedo and catwalks and stuff, and like modeling. And I think he didn't know how to take that. He didn't know how to tell anyone like, they come up to me like, I thought he was doing humanitarian work. What's happened? And so I think there were a couple of years where I was just getting into that space while I was studying Chinese in Chengdu. And then this kind of stuff, like the entertainment industry, being an actor or a model or singer, like where I'm from, it's so far out of the box that no one even considers it an option. So it just kind of like blows your mind. And so there were a couple of years where my dad was just not, I don't think he knew what I was doing and probably scared him. And I was still figuring out my life. And then it wasn't until a couple of years after that where finally I decided to take this road of being an actor. And he could see that I was doing things and I was doing well. And he was like, okay, I see what you're doing now. And I'm really proud of you. And, you know, that was a big, big moment for me. But yeah, there were a couple of years there where it was iffy.
I gotcha. Well, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you ended up getting into acting? Obviously, you had your early Viking experience and some early leverage that for a bunch of gigs, but it's a little different than going into, you know, leveraging that to actually get into, you know, starring in roles or, you know, having supporting roles in movies per se. Maybe you could talk about how that kind of opened up for you.
Sure. It's been a long journey, but right. When I was in Chengdu and they signed me to this agency, I did some acting gigs in town where if a movie was filming there, I'd do a small spot in the movie or some local TV shows. I was like a guest star on those shows. And it was towards the like end of the 2 years in Chengdu where I was thinking like, I don't want to keep doing this modeling and singing. I love singing, but I don't really like performing for people and hosting. I don't really like it either. But I was like, acting, this stuff is interesting. You know, this is something that I could really dedicate my life to. I could learn forever. There's just so much you can keep developing forever. It's such a fascinating craft. There was this time in Guizhou where I went on this dating show. It was called 非常完美.
I think I've heard of this show.
Amazingly perfect. And there's like 10 guys or something. They're on this panel and then girls come out and they like talk about themselves. And then we ask them questions. And then one of us professes our love for them. And then we go on a date or something. And there was this other American guy who was on the show. This guy named Grant, who's from Tennessee, and he wore a cowboy hat. He was the cowboy. And he was like, hey, I'm in Beijing. I'm studying acting at the China Central Academy. And I'm the first ever, you know, white guy to study acting there. But he's like, I really wanted to study at Beijing Film Academy because no one other than, you know, Chinese people ever studied there. And it's like the #1 acting school in China. And I was like, cool. And he's like, you're doing acting. You should go study there. You should do this. And I was like, how? How could I do that? And he's like, it's easy. You just apply for the scholarship and I'll show you how to do it and see if you can get in. And so, yeah, he helped me and I applied for the scholarship, which is for like engineering students usually to come to China. And Beijing Film Academy wasn't even an option on the application. You know, I had to write, I literally printed it out and I wrote in like first choice, Beijing Film Academy, second choice, Beijing Film Academy, third choice, Beijing Film Academy. And then I like kind of put in like some DVDs and some like pictures and materials that I had, my resume in there, and I sent it off. And after my 2 years in Chengdu were coming to an end, and it was another time when I felt like I was going crazy, I told my parents, I was like, you know, I like this acting stuff here, but I feel like I'm going crazy and I need to come home and I think I need to go to therapy for 6 months before I ever consider coming back to China. And so I packed up all my stuff and boxes, shipped them home on a slow boat, flew home. On the way home, I did another connecting flight through DC, and a friend of mine who was in Chengdu, she's from DC, and she said, you got to meet my dad if you ever go back to the US. He's like really involved in the music industry and film. He works in the White House and all this stuff. And so the family kind of adopted me for a weekend and took me into their home.
Was this a Chinese or American?
No, this is an American family.
Okay.
Their daughter was in Chengdu teaching English.
Got it.
And she told me, you know, she'd seen what I was doing there. And she was like, you got to meet my dad because he's involved with this stuff in the States. So anyway, I was having dinner with them in DC on the way home. And my mom texted me, sent me a picture of a acceptance letter to Beijing Film Academy from the consulate.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I'd forgotten about that, you know. And it said like the start date, you need to reply by, whatever, June 1st. And I was like, it's already July 20th,
Oh, no.
Yeah. But I told the guys at the dinner, the friend's father and his family and some friends of theirs, and he was like, you need to go back to China. He was like, you can't pass up
Mm,
this opportunity. This is like an amazing, amazing opportunity. And I was like,
hmm
no, I think I need to go to therapy. I think I can't go back to China. But at the same time, I was like Western China champion for this competition for Men's Health magazine. It was like a fitness modeling
hmm
competition. And there was the all of China countries wide competition in Beijing who wanted to fly me in. And there was a TV series that wanted to fly me in to shoot in Beijing. And then studying in the Beijing Film Academy as the first ever non-Asian, to study acting
Wow.
there. So pretty much within 3 weeks, I was back in China.
Wow.
And that's when things started to change. I started studying Beijing Film Academy and I started booking some bigger and bigger roles in China. In between my classes, I would go out and film, and then I just became an actor.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really neat. That's really neat. How was that for you coming back? Okay. You said you felt you need 6 months of therapy. So looks like you made it. What kind of worked out for you? And maybe you could even talk about what do you think was some of your struggles maybe at that time?
I think a lot of people struggle in China with these expectations that people have of you. They see
Mhm.
what foreigners are in Hollywood films or TV series, and they have this like idea of what an American is and how you're supposed
Mhm.
to be, and they just expect that you're like that. And I was very different than that. And so I was constantly battling with who am I?
Mhm.
I feel like I'm one thing, but everyone's telling me I'm something else. Am I really something else? Or am I this? And at the same time, I was experiencing new things. Like I became a model at a certain
Mhm.
point, there was no way I would ever have become a model, ever even considered that where I'm from. It's like my mind was just expanding, and sometimes I felt like I was becoming something I didn't want to be. Sometimes I felt like some
Mhm.
things were good. And there was this kind of battle going on. And there's some family stuff. My mom was like, don't forget who you are. And,
Mhm.
my grandmother, the last thing she said to me before I left, don't go off and marry a Chinese girl and bring her back home. So there are these things that I'm just like, this is who I am. This is what my family wants me to be. And then what am I? And there's like this
Mhm.
battle, I think.
That's still an ongoing thing to a degree. I can relate to that a little bit. But how did you end up kind of grounding yourself and finding out where you stand?
It's been a long process. It's, little by little. I think one thing that helped was not being in Guizhou after the first 2 years and then moving to Chengdu, and then leaving Chengdu after the first 2 years was good too, because I was able to kind of reset, go home, reset, and then come back. And at that time, I was really only in Beijing for about a year, year and a half. The program at Beijing Film Academy, I just studied for a year.
Mhm.
And instead of doing the 4 year program, I was like, I don't want to go to school for 4 more years. I did the 1 year.
Mhm.
So after that, I actually did escape from China and I moved to LA. So,
Mm.
but I think for me, it's like, well, I know my limits and I love China. It's like my second home, but I try not to stay for too long of stints because I start to
Mhm.
feel like just becoming someone who I'm not. And I like to leave and kind of reset.
I can understand.
There's been therapy too. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of therapy. I think
Yes.
everyone, also where I'm from, therapy kind of sounds weird, but
Mhm.
talking to someone, especially a professional who listens, can help anyone,
I agree.
and everyone can gain from it. So it's one of the best
Yes.
experiences of my life.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that because, I can relate to that. For anyone who's lived in China for any period of time, I think there's certain pressures and things, and sometimes it can be difficult, you know? It doesn't matter what your situation exactly is, it can be difficult.
It's always difficult to be outside of your culture,
Mhm.
and for anyone, not just China. I think anyone who goes anywhere else that's got its own challenges. It's not comfortable. It's
Mhm.
always
Yeah. Well, maybe you could talk a little bit about what are you working on now? What are some of the projects you have going on and some of the things that you're doing right now and shed a little light on that.
Yeah. Well, I just had a TV series come out in China. It's out all over the world, actually, on iQIYI, which is kind of like the Netflix of China.
Mhm.
It's a show called Zhui Feng Zhuo. Trying to think of the English name.
追风舟, was it?
追风者, like it would directly translate to chasing the wind. But War on Faith is the English name.
War on Faith?
War on Faith. Yeah. So it's a Chinese drama. It's like an espionage drama set in 1930s Shanghai. And I play a German guns or weapons expert.
Are you a good guy or bad guy?
Cases. I'm a good guy.
Ooh,
I'm a Nazi, the good guys.
Nazi good guy.
Yeah. And I'm also doing a play right now. We're doing the Chinese adaptation of Shawshank Redemption.
I saw that. It's really interesting. From what I understand, okay, live theater, live play, all foreigners in Chinese.
Right. So it's the first time that's ever been done in China to have a play, an entire foreign cast. We're from like 9 different countries, and we all speak Mandarin. And our shtick is that we don't suck at Mandarin. We're like freaking
or
good.
acting, right?
Yeah. But it's like, the Chinese people would normally go to something like this and be like, oh, they're just going to sound like foreign idiots up there speaking our language. But they see it and they're like, holy crap, they're better than us.
That's got to be challenging, though. I mean, no matter how good your Chinese is, I mean, your live theater is challenging, period. I understand that. But doing that in Chinese, obviously you can practice. It's not like improv, right? But what is that like for you?
It's amazing. It's been an amazing learning experience for me. I love theater the most as an actor. So I was thrilled to do this. But acting in Chinese, and it's not just that, is our director, Zhang Guoli. He has very high standards for our Chinese. So it's like, it's got to be perfect and like localized. So there's a lot of pressure because my Chinese, I never felt like I was quite good enough. So at the same time as I'm trying to do the acting well, and and there's another couple of guys on our cast. Da Shan is known as having the best Chinese ever in China, and he's been here.
Is Mark Roswell? He's in the cast?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah.
He plays Red, who was originally played by Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
And he's just known as having the best Chinese ever, and he's been in China like 35 years or something, right? So we got him, and he's not even the best Chinese in their thing. We have a guy named Andy Friend, who was born in Beijing. His first language is Chinese.
Wow.
And so he's literally perfect,
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to hang in with these guys, and my downtime, like actually on the ground time in China is it's definitely less than 10 years, maybe like 8 years. So I'm way behind them as far as time. So I had to put in a lot of effort to kind of get up to the next level to sound localized. But it's been great, I actually really enjoy learning Chinese, and I enjoy having better Chinese because I think there's still part of me that wants to sound so perfect that people just accept me, which I later found out will never happen no matter how good your Chinese is. But that's another story.
So Matt, looking back on your experience, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's learning Chinese right now?
Well, I would say nothing can replace on the ground time in China. And the more you speak, the better you get. Having a one-on-one tutor pays off exponentially. And definitely don't ignore tones because you'll never have good Chinese. I think I could give a lot of advice, a lot more specific stuff. But I think it all comes down to being in a good language environment. So, if you really want to learn Chinese, don't go to Shanghai, Beijing, where everyone's speaking English to you. Go to backwoods nowhere and just surround yourself. Yeah, surround yourself in that environment where you have to speak, because that's the only way you really improve.
Well, that's great advice. Well, Matt, if people want to find out a little bit more about you, or maybe even book you for some sort of a show, right? Where can they go to find out more about you? Or even go to see some of your movies?
Yeah, I have an Instagram I do sometimes, Matt William Knowles, website mattwilliam.com.
Well, that's great. We'll go ahead and put a link in the show notes for anybody who might want to find out a little bit more about you.
Sounds good.
Well, Matt, thanks so much for taking the time to share your story and really get into some of these details. This was really cool to see how Chinese has just changed your life.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to reflect on these stories occasionally.
You have been listening to the You Can Learn Chinese podcast. My name is Jared Turner, co-founder of the Mandarin Companion Graded Reader Series, and John Passon, he's co-founder of Mandarin Companion, founder of All Set Learning, the Chinese Grammar Wiki, and Sinosplice.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and take a moment to text or message this episode to a friend or share it on social media. That really helps us reach more people on their language journey. You can leave us a review on iTunes or reach out to us at mandarincompanion.com or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find our Chinese Graded Reader Series on Amazon, iBooks, Google Play, or wherever you get your books. Apologies to John Cena, we just ran out of time. The You Can Learn Chinese podcast is produced by myself, Jared Turner, and our editor is Jasper Chua. A special thanks to our special guest, Matt William Knowles, and of course, thanks to my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, John Passon. See you next time.